Hey folks, my name is Ravish and welcome back to another video in the series of DevOps real-time interviews. Now, we have a profile with us today. So this person is having around 10 plus years of experience in IT and he's working as a cloud lead DevOps. This person is having around 6 plus years of experience in DevOps and cloud related services. So we started our interview on AWS because that was the cloud provider he was comfortable on. We started with AWS Cloud Trail, EC2, post that we moved to EKS and then RDS and a lot of other things. All right, so this is in today's interview. There are multiple things that revolve around these technologies and the DevOps related questions. So do check out the complete video. And if you are watching this as a reel or on Instagram or on Twitter, make sure to check out the pinned comment or the link for the whole video. All right, so that would be all for this. Before moving further in this video, I would like to lay emphasis on something that whenever we ask a question related to your application or the project that you're working on, you at least should know, right, how your project works. I have told in multiple videos that please learn how your application is working. Yes, you are a DevOps or a cloud guy, but you need to know the application that you are going to explain, because based on that an interviewer can ask the question. So this is one of the most important thing. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is whenever you write any technology in your resume or in your profile, make sure that you know it, or at least one or two use cases around it, because sometimes what happens is the person will read some technology and he or she will ask question that what exactly is happening over there, what did you use, how did you do it. So that's one thing I wanted to make sure that please do learn one or two use cases around it, so that you can answer and do not be blank at the time of interview. All right, so that's what I wanted to say. So without further ado, let's get started.
Moved to system administration fully, and that field got involved into DevOps, and I inducted myself pretty early on this. I was all didn't have any programming experience at that time, but I wanted to get into this and started building my own automation systems, scripts, and all this, and that fascinated me a lot. So ever since I've been there, I've been doing DevOps ever since. So most of the time, my work really rely on building custom solutions for the organization that I work with. I see the trouble that the organization is having, and how can I remove manual interference and make the entire system as automated as possible. So for that, I have been using Python with web frameworks more oftenly. I have experience on these, but I've started getting into Go as well. I won't say I have an extensive experience with Go, but I've been building few stuffs with it, like the APIs and all that, and even the CLI command tools line. Furthermore, been with Kubernetes ever since it got popular with, and doing containerization, release automations, and release processes, more like SOPs for the organizations. So now I've shifted my talent in terms of leadership, and currently I'm working with as a lead DevOps. I have a team of 6 people under me, and mostly is technical guidance and a little bit of hands-on on this at this moment.
Okay.
This is it from me.
Okay, great. So I understand that you have around 10 years of experience in IT services, right? So if I briefly talk about how much in cloud do you have?
It's 6 years.
6 years.
6 to 7 years.
Great. And I can see your profile that you are much more comfortable on the AWS, right?
Yeah, we have a backup solution for Azure that I've got comfortable with, but mostly the organization that I've worked on, they had the entire infrastructure built on AWS. So whatever they gave me, I had to completely master it. But I've not seen any organization that is completely devoted to Azure or GCP.
Okay, great. And how much in DevOps in terms of years?
It's pretty much the same. 6 to 7 years, yeah.
Okay, sure. Okay, can you just walk me through the current project that you are working on and what exactly do you do in that?
Current project, You mean the current role that I am in?
Yes, exactly.
It's a leadership role, and it's completely a platform team where we have AWS and as an infrastructure, and we develop technologies based on these. So it's a ad hoc platform, ad tech platform where they have microservices, and they have a tenant and client side. Shared site where all the services that are being hosted by us is there, but we also provide tenant services to our customers on that. So if a customer wants to get into our platform, he requests us to build a platform, like an entire infrastructure for him, which is on AWS. And then their client side is under our managed services, and the server side is under, like the backend is under our services as well. So we work with Terraform, we work with microservices, we work with CI/CD like GitHub Actions, GoCD. We worked on these. Plus, we are using Python, Django APIs to develop our custom solutions for automation for DB access and platform access. These sort of things that we have been automating overall. My role specifically is to provide them instructions, guidelines, oversee their operations, get them new projects, and how we can see what are the pain points. We can like develop new technologies over these. So this is what we are currently working on.
Okay, okay. So, the application that you folks are working on is written on what tech stack, what language?
It's a Spring Boot, Java, and a mixture of Python and Go as well.
Okay, okay. Can you just walk me through the pipeline that is happening in this project and till the production, like what exactly you folks are doing, and if there is
All right.
anything else?
There is a environment called NPRD. That's a non-production environment where all the development happens, and whatever is being pushed towards that, it's from a GoCD server that is deployed in the same cluster, and we use Flux to deploy all the changes there. So if there, we have a separate GitOps repository where the developer, whoever wants to change it, apply a new image or make variable changes on anything or create a secret, they do it on that repository, and those changes are pushed onto the cluster itself. And the build CI is on GoCD itself. So they build the images there, and we have like a private Docker registry running there. It keeps the images, and the Kubernetes cluster pulls that out. Then once they are done with the development, they promote this build towards an RC where the images are being tested, and a QA environment picks those images up, run in a separate environment, tests entire product, and once they give a go ahead, we promote it to a pre-pod environment, which we call demo. So that demo is has a similar process where we have a separate GitOps repository. They make changes to that, and that repository is pulled by the Flux system itself and deploys those new images. After the demo, then they go for production. Now it depends on the production. We have like tenant systems and the actual shared environment. The shared environment are services that are mainly for each and every tenants, and there are tenant services which are specifically to that particular region or particular clients. So these changes, if a client requests a separate feature and that feature is just for that client specific, we only deploy that changes to that person's tenant only. So it has a similar process where Flux system is looking at a Git repository, and whenever it finds changes to that, it deploys it automatically.
Okay, okay. So, I can see in the resume that the current position in which you are lead DevOps, you folks are using Amazon Cloud Trail, right? Okay.
We
So,
use CloudWatch, CloudTrail, we have Prometheus, we have Datadog, we have APM monitors. Also, we had a mixture of New Relic before that we moved away from. So previously it was New Relic, then we moved away due to like some concern of cost. Then we opted in for Datadog. Also, there are other metrics that we follow, like the status pages and from Ops Genie for alerting, Slack channels for notifying us in chats. So these sort of monitorings and alerts we already have.
Okay, okay. So, what do you understand by Amazon Cloud Trail, and what is the primary purpose of it?
CloudTrail is more like a logging system where we collect metrics out of it, and then based on these metrics, we can like generate alerts, alarms for that, and primarily we use that for it.
Okay, but then when you say that it's a logging system, we had AWS CloudWatch logs, right? So, how does it differ from Cloud Trail?
I'm not sure about this. I have not gotten into details of this.
Okay, I'll help you out. So basically, this CloudTrail is a service that records AWS API calls and related events for your AWS account. When we
Mm.
talk about the primary purpose, it's to provide governance, compliance, operational auditing,
Oh,
and risk auditing regarding your AWS environment. On the context of why exactly it is, how exactly it is different from the CloudWatch logs. So this CloudTrail records AWS API calls and related events for the auditing
understood. Yeah,
purpose, while
understood.
CloudWatch logs capture application and system logs for mostly
Uh-huh.
monitoring and troubleshooting. So that's what.
Yeah. Basically, it's out of our scope because mostly it's taken care of another team called DevSecOps
Mhm.
and an InfoSec. So these sort of services they enable it as per their governance policy and whatever they watch out for. So the security posture is completely on a different team handles. So that's why we haven't looked at it.
Okay. Okay. But do you know how, what is the, like, how does it work, CloudTrail? Do you have any idea on this?
No, I haven't seen this, but there is an API audit calls that we do for Kubernetes itself. What is being pushed, how the roles are being changed, or who have access, who don't. These sort of things that these metrics that do come to us on this.
Okay, no problem. No
Yeah.
problem. I can see you have written Amazon ECS as well, right? So, what exactly you folks are doing with the Amazon ECS?
There are a couple of services that are being used there. They are partially for like a separate, which we call like a logging system where a guardian is coming on, a principal guardian is coming on, and he uses that services directly to interact with the platform. But that person is a guardian, he doesn't require an entire platform to be accessed towards them, so we don't usually route him towards the same platform logins that we have. So it's a separate service that allow principal like the student guardians, like the mother and father, wants to see the progress of a child. So that service is there where they get login and only a specific student is being seen by them. So that service is there, and we have a single instance of that in a shared environment. Other than that, not much we have been trying to use on this.
Okay. Can you explain me like what exactly is Amazon ECS and how does it work?
It's a container system,
Yes.
and we host the same like microservice there, but it has a task where it defines only what service is required. You don't need to provision an entire cluster for it. It decide what nodes it needs, and depending on the request, it adds nodes and divides. We don't have to assign complete, just like the EKS.
Okay. Okay. So, so this ECS manages the placement of containers on a cluster of two things. What are those two things?
ECS manager is a
The placement of containers on a cluster of two things. What are those two things?
I don't really understand the question.
Have
Are
you
you
ever
talking?
used like Fargate? Have you ever used?
Oh, the container systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fargate, and there is another node groups that we use for EC2 instance. Fargate we don't use because it's not like our responsibility. Like we haven't have this because we have dedicated node groups for this, and we have a particular instance attached towards it. But if you want to know the difference between Fargate and a node group in EC2 instance, then one is completely dedicated and it's managed by us, and the other is completely managed by AWS. You don't need to like choose what instances or what. It depends on the load, what it requires, and it assign that node towards it. And I think in terms of cost, it's a little bit more cheaper. Other than that, I don't know any other differences between Fargate and EC2 for node groups.
Okay. Do you know how auto scaling works in ECS?
Auto scaling.
Yeah, in ECS.
Um, Basically, the auto scaling is based on CPU and memory usage or other metrics if you want to like do custom metrics. But it mostly is monitors CPU and memory usage, and then depends on whatever you have assigned in terms of desired and current. So if it is going above desired nodes, then it increases, and once the requirement is gone, it decreases on this.
Okay, but what happens internally?
Internally means it adds more nodes, or it adds more CPU or something. It depends like what sort of auto scaling you have, vertical or horizontal. So if it's just a vertical one, then it adds nodes, and if it's horizontal, then it increase the CPU and memory usage of it.
Okay, just adding more to it. So, when we specifically talk about ECS, we have either EC2 and Fargate, right? So, when we talk
Hmm.
about EC2 scaling, it automatically scale this adjusts the number of EC2 instances in the cluster based on resource utilization or custom
Yeah,
metric that
exactly.
you what is it. Okay, and when we talk about ECS part, ECS service auto scaling adjusts the number of tasks in the service based on the CloudWatch alarm. So if you have a CloudWatch alarm, then according to this, it adjusts. That's just wanted to add on it. Okay. So can you share me a real time scenario where you would choose AWS Fargate over the EC2 launch type?
Choose a scenario
Hmm.
where I do not know what actual load that the service will take.
Hmm.
So I will choose Fargate on this. But if I know the desired load and how much CPU and memory it will take, then I can like specifically assign a static EC2 instance against it.
Okay. Okay. I'll give you a scenario and then we'll circle back to the same question. Let's see if we can crack it. Okay. So you might have played. I'm sorry. So you might have played games, right, on laptop or computer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say a heavy intensive game which requires a graphics card for rendering, right? For that game, we need to create an application before we can play that game, right? And they are generally made on Unreal Engine or other softwares. So in order to create those applications, run those applications, build those applications, what kind of environment do we need? Would we need EC2 or would we need Fargate?
For if it's the server side, it's going to like make user connect towards it, and we don't know the specific load that it might go to because the user base can increase at any time. Uh, I think we can use Fargate for that, but I'm not sure about this. What we usually do is we have a specific number of users that we monitor in terms of it, and we calculate load based on that. We stress test those API calls and everything, how the platform will consume in terms of that many users. And then we know specific set of numbers that this this cluster requires, and we set up those nodes based on the load requirement that we have. So anytime we have an induction of any services, we go for load test. We run that through whatever the number we have assigned in terms of concurrent users or entire peak load, and we see how this service measure between that, how many pods, how many container systems do we require in terms of completely utilizing this, and we mark it in a benchmark of below 75% usage for each and every container. If the load is below 75%, we may mark it as ideal, and we set those number of containers or pods, and whatever resource that they required, we assign those kind of nodes. So this is one of the scenarios that we do, how we test our load and then assigned based on the requirements. So if it requires an increase of node group, then we assign that to it. But there's entire process behind this where the cost is calculated, and then it goes to the change management request, and then they approve that this service, this much how cost will be inducted in a monthly scenario. So those costs are calculated, and then once it approves, then we induct more resources onto the cluster itself. But coming back to your question, maybe yes, for a game development system like a server where we don't know X numbers of users, how many will be coming out. So a Fargate scenario will be a good scenario for it, where you can define uh, a certain number, but EC2 instance on demand, I can assign much bigger and define a node group based on this and put it on scale auto scaling. That is another scenario as well.
Okay, okay. Just a hint on that. Fargate doesn't have a GPU processed system.
Oh yeah, but
EC2
not
has.
every, but you don't require a GPU based on gaming server. If you would have talked about AI or machine learning APIs or a microservice, then I would have thought yeah, for ML learning or AI services, you require GPU side processing. So you might have gone for the EC2 rather than the Fargate.
What
But
was
for
the
service,
last game that you played?
Uh, Glass play, I am more into Leagues of Legend. I have a
Is it a
lot of
mobile
games.
game? League of Legends is a mobile game or
No,
a
no,
PC game?
it's a PC.
Okay,
It has a different version in terms of mobile as well.
okay, okay. I'm not sure whether you have played this game or not. Have you played this Far Cry?
Yes, I have.
So
But
games like this.
I'm not a first person shooter. I'm more like a strategist person, like
Okay, got it.
Leagues of Legend, Dota,
Okay, okay, got
or
it.
yeah.
So for that kind of things, you need a heavy centric processor. And to be honest, I'm currently working on something like this. So we thought about the Fargate part, but it did not come to pass. And even the agent that we build our application on should have GPU. Otherwise, it won't even build, or would take
Yeah.
like forever. So that's a personal experience. So was just curious.
Yeah, usually the NVIDIA GPUs that AWS launched is more like, if you see the scenarios or the recommendations, you will see that most of the examples are for the machine learning or AI processing.
Okay, okay. Let's your resume. We have Amazon RDS as well, right? So, what is exactly Amazon RDS, and how does it differ from a traditional database hosting solution?
It has more features than the traditional ones. You need to require additional services to maintain them, but RDS provides you with that, like the cluster service itself, and auto scaling is there along with backup processes and migrations. All these services are built into RDS. You don't need to find third-party solutions for this. And what is RDS? RDS is a database where it's a relational database, you might say, like Postgres, MySQL, these sort of. Then you can host on this.
Okay, okay, okay. Mm, just one point that I should add. Unlike traditional hosting, RDS handles many of these tasks automatically, allowing users to focus on more on application development.
On the
But
yeah,
this
exactly.
software patching, hardware provisioning, backup, scaling, it takes care of that. Okay.
And most of these services that AWS offer are primarily like these. Like if you see Elastic, ELK or Kibana or these open search telemetry, these are like services where like are from this traditional, but they have added service onto them and they're reselling it by their name. So these open relation databases, they are like one of the product that they enhanced in terms of providing these services out.
Okay. Okay. So do you know what are the database engines that are supported by RDS, Amazon RDS?
I think Postgres, MySQL, MS SQL is there as well. I think not sure, but yes, it is. I think this is part of a relation. These most of them Dynamo DB is something, and Mongo is non-relational, but it's not in RDS. It's a different services. So I think these are the ones that I know of. MySQL and Postgres are the most highly used there. So they have been using there. MariaDB is there as well.
Okay. 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 So when we talk about multi AZ deployments, okay, in RDS, can you explain me like how does that happen?
So I think AW has multiple zones, AZs, which are reflected as data centers. So they have like in a region have multiple data centers. So when you call upon multi AZ, that means one of the clusters in one AZ and the other one is on a different AZ. So these are segregated due to like fault tolerance or like getting one data center completely down. So you can still don't feel any downtime because your services are being managed by other data centers as well. So that's the purpose of multi-easy.
Okay. 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 Um, like if I have to explain this part, I'll like to add that when you talk about multi-AZ in the RDS, it'll obviously provide the high availability by maintaining a standby replica of the primary database. You have a primary database, right? Just put it in a different availability zone. So
What we have like multi-AZ and read and write mode. So there's a primary cluster that has in one AZ, and then we have multiple in different AZs like read only and write only. And it's a cluster based. So if the writers goes down, the readers promote to write themselves in, and there is a DNS attached towards it that like reflects changes onto it, and the server gets replaced automatically. We don't have to like take actions against them. So we don't have an active passive one, but we have like multiple AZs deployed on all the AZs that we have for a region, and most of them are read and write. So dependent upon what scenario we are in, we utilize that. So there are some kind of particular instances where we like redirect traffic to a particular read parameters for some services, and only the write services are given to the writers. So we segregate that as well.
okay, okay. So you were talking about active passive, right? Can you explain me the difference between active and active passive? Like what exactly is this in a layman term?
In a layman term, there is if you say active, then it means like both the servers can write simultaneously, but the request will be like being balanced by a load balancer in front of them. But if you talk about active passive, then one of the side is active, the other is completely down and it's not receiving any traffic against it. So if the active is gone, then the passive becomes the active one and it starts receiving the traffic.
Okay, okay. Mm, so are you using these read replicas or how are you doing it?
Yeah, it's a read replicas. We have one writer and multiple readers in deployed in different AZs. So if the writer goes down, then Amazon completely shifts another writer to promote it to as a writer.
Okay, okay. Okay, so like a basic question on same thing, like why we should use read replicas? What exactly is the purpose?
It's more like read replicas are more like used as a copy for the actual database, but other people have different scenarios. Like people use as a security concern as well. Where if a service is just going to fetch data from it, then it shouldn't be going to the writer itself because writer has higher process in terms of writing it, and readers can fetch data immediately and can give it back. So what we do, we use it for more like a segregation between the services itself. So some particular service who can write onto a database is directly pointing towards the writer itself. But the readers, they are pointing, different services are reading through that. So this is more like segregations there, but mainly the reader is there for like uh, make a replica itself, and on the time of need can promote itself to writer.
Okay, okay. So basically, when you want to improve the performance and reduce the load on the primary database, you can use that because, as you
Yeah,
said, they are.
it also yeah also due to performance as well. So you can read faster rather than wait for the write to complete out, and then you can fetch the data against.
Yeah, it basically allows you to scale read heavy workloads. So yeah, that's the purpose of it. Okay. What is the difference between an Amazon RDS and Amazon Aurora?
Aurora, I think it has a relational database, but I'm not sure the difference between them. I think it's a performance difference between them that segregates it. Other than that, I don't have any use cases against it.
Okay, okay, I'll help you out. So when we talk about Aurora, it's MySQL and PostgreSQL compatible relational database engine, but it's not traditional RDS engine. That's one thing that people need to understand. It offers better performance and replication and durability compared to the standard RDS database. Good choice for the application
Mm.
that require high performance and scalability. That's and it's a lot pushed by Amazon. I mean, they push it a lot. Use Aurora. Isn't that?
Yeah,
So yeah.
exactly. That's the only difference that I know of as well. But
Okay.
other than that, I don't see any other difference
Okay.
between them.
Okay. Okay. So this the instances that you're using in RDS, how are you securing data in that currently?
Securing data means encryption, database
Any sort of
encryption with
like
KMS.
encryption or authentication, anything
Yeah,
like how are you doing it?
we have encryption like from AWS KMS, and we are doing it from like I think the word I forgot is one is in transit mode or and is one
At
in the
rest.
endpoint address. Yeah, that's the word. So we have implemented the at rest at the moment, but in terms of in transition, we are like still in progress with this. So for RDS, there is an option where you enable that feature, and then at rest it starts to like encrypt the data.
Okay. So generally, when we use encryption in transit, what do we use?
I have no idea.
Okay, no problem. There are other ways of doing it. You can create IAM authentication on the database level. You can restrict people on NSGs. Encryption at rest, you already told about, in which we use AWS and KMS. But when we talk about in transit, you can use TLS, I guess, and SSL. That's how we do it. Okay. So this database that you are currently having, are you doing any automated backup or any retention policies?
Yeah, the RDS is backing this up, and the retention policy is like we keep for 7 days, and then we discard the last one. And we have a policy where we bring up a new cluster every month with that backup and test it out like this backup is valid or not, and the QA team helps us out by identifying like the database is yes, it has all the data and it can be restored onto it.
Okay. So, in a scenario in where I want to control the connection limits, the timeouts, the cache sizes, how do you control that?
In terms of database,
Yes, RDS.
I think there is a property section for the RDS itself where you can enable and disable these options, and usually you pass these variables there and assign true or false values or either numeric values in order to change these values on.
Do you know
So
the terminology name? There is a group.
term, I think it's attribute or something. I'm not pretty much sure about this, but we have customization from their part, so that whenever we build up a cluster, we customize. We have few keys that we need to customize in order to make this database reliable for us.
Okay, it's actually known as parameter groups. It allows you to customize
Oh,
the
yeah.
database engine configuration settings. So you can control this limits and timeouts and cache sizes from there. Okay. Um, so, do you have this any maintenance window concept in RDS?
Maintenance window.
Yeah.
We haven't used this in any term, but maybe it has, maybe it's, I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. No problem.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe maintenance window is more like when we are doing a upgrade for a cluster, or we want to put it for non-production, like put it out of production. People usually do this in terms of maintenance, but we have a complete system, like a separate process for this, where there's a job that we have created, where we host an HTML page that comes in front of the Nginx that we are doing, and whenever we host that, all the requests are coming to the maintenance page, and none of the requests are going through the platform itself. So these sort of things that we do when we are patching it or we are updating our.
Okay, yeah, I mean, correct. You can specify a window during which these tasks like patching, updating, they can have the least impact on an application availability. So that's the window time period for the Amazon RDS in which it performs maintenance tasks like this. So yeah, that's one thing. Okay, on the RDS, this would be my last question. So describe any scenario in which you choose Amazon RDS over running your own database in any EC2 instance.
Could you repeat the question?
So let's say you have RDS, right? And you have EC2
Mm.
instance. So this EC2 instance has its own database inside it, and then you have RDS, what you have already. So where would you choose this RDS instead of uh, own database in EC2 instance?
Production.
Why exactly?
I want the additional services on this, like clusters, backup performance. I can't ensure that performance in terms of an EC2 instance. I can if there is some requirement that needs to be scaled up, then I have to go through a lot of hoops in order to upgrade that EC2 instance and provide database backups on these. Let's say if a certain EC2 instance have reached its capacity, and that instance type I have to completely change, then I have to take images and put it onto a new one, and that will take a lot of downtimes and all that. But in terms of RDS, I can do it very easily in this matter.
Okay, okay, okay. Fair enough. Um, let's talk about any SCM. So what SCM do you folks use? Source code management do you use?
We have GitHub.
Sorry?
GitHub.
GitHub. Okay, okay. Then let's talk about a bit about Git. Can you explain me a merge conflict in Git and how can you resolve it?
A merge conflict is something that you're adding to the branch, and the line is already been modified or it's not reflecting the same thing. It's been overwritten by some other merge. So any previous code that you're adding up might conflict with it, and the merge config is it pops up and gives you the line number that these are the conflicts. Which code you want to keep, either the source or the ones that are on the remote. So you decide which code you can keep, and once the merges conflicts are resolved, then you can merge the code onto it.
Okay, how do you resolve it, this merge conflict?
Either by accepting the code from the remote side or either from the source side.
Have
So it's usually like the lines are given to you, and then you decide whether which line that you want to keep. So if there's a conflict in line two, then both the choices are given to you, and you have to delete one in order to accept the other one.
Okay, have you heard about this get
But
stash?
Git stash is for something else. Git stash is like something you're pulling now down and you already made changes, but you don't want your changes to be like overwritten, but you need the updated code for the others. So you stash that code that you have changes and then you git pull it. Once you have the latest copy, then you can pop up that stash and resume your work on this.
Okay, all right, all right. Okay, so when we talk about this code pulling, we have git fetch and git pull. Can you explain me the difference?
Git pull will go to the entire repository, and git fetch can be like for particular branch or particular commit that you can like fetch for.
Okay, okay. How do you resolve this detached head state in git?
How would I resolve?
Detached head state.
Uh, Not sure.
Okay, you
And
can create a new branch from the current commit. I mean, you can just type git checkout hyphen b and
hmm.
any branch name, so it'll automatically resolve it. So that is it.
But
Okay,
how would you end up in that scenario? I'm wondering that.
sorry, I didn't get you.
How would you end up in the scenario where you have a detached head? Because this is something very new to me. I have never seen this in a real life.
So generally, what happens is when you work with a team of 150 plus people, there would be someone who would be doing it, and you won't know. In my past experience, there were only two DevOps. One was me, one was other lady, and there were around 165 people and seven different verticals, and we had to support all of them. I don't know who did what. There were multiple problems. There were multiple scenarios that I've never even heard in my life. I tend
Hmm.
to go it, Google it, how to resolve it, how to resolve that, and that happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one thing. Okay.
Sometimes Git seems very easy to use, but sometimes complicates yourself like completely, and it becomes an entire problem that you can like never dream of.
Exactly. There was one scenario. There was a release on Friday, okay, and it was a sprint end, and something known as race condition happened. I don't know how it happened. Who did it? I did it. Someone else did it. Some developer did it. I don't know how it happened. Things were not happening. I mean, and everyone who was committing the code, the build was not getting triggered. The code was not there. There was no deployment at all, and then it had to release that specific day. The only advantage was we were at India, people were at the US, so we had a few more hours. Spent around 3 hours to understand what exactly is happening, how do I resolve it. There were few trial and errors that happened, got fixed, but very new. I had to go inside the VM where the checkout was happening. I had to delete a few files, create an empty commit, and then ran it. But it was new to me. I mean, I've never heard about this, but it was there. So yeah,
Now you added something in my experience as well.
yeah. So yeah, that was one thing. Have you ever done this cherry picking in the code using it?
Not in a real time, but I've seen cherry picking. There is some specific commit that you just want to cherry pick and then merge it afterwards.
Okay, okay, okay. Let's talk about you have done work on EKS as well, right? Um, just give me a moment. Okay, let's talk about EKS. How do you think this EKS is different from self-managed Kubernetes clusters?
Difference. It's completely the same scenario where there are a lot of features that have been given, the add-on services, the upgrades, the patching, these sort of things are these manage. Like these sort of advantages are there for EKS, where you have to, like, in terms of self management, you have to do all these together yourself, backing up, and these sort of things that you have to do. So that's what we use EKS for. Where we don't have to manage the API itself, the controller itself. You just have to watch out for the node groups and try to, like, work on the workloads rather than administering the cluster itself.
Okay. So in the current scenario, can you explain me like what exactly are you doing with EKS?
Our entire workloads are on EKS. The entire platform is there, and we are deploying this through Flux. What we have, like, we have Nginx load balancer. We have Code Kong as an API gateway inside there. We are utilizing, like, every service that we have is being run in the Kubernetes itself.
Okay. 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 Let's talk about a scenario. Your application experiences increased traffic during peak hours. Okay. How would you set up auto scaling for your EKS cluster worker nodes?
Peak hours.
Yeah, I mean, let's say there is a sale, okay, and it starts at 12 o'clock at the night. So that would be your peak hours.
You want auto scale to be up, like, add additional nodes based on the time base, right?
No, I don't want it. You are going to tell me the solution. So
We
my
have auto
question.
scaling. Our auto scaling works for resource management. When the nodes are around 80%, we add another node against it. So we have a peak time of our, like, the school logins that we call. It's around 7 a.m. in the morning. So how our auto scaling works is, like, at the morning we scale up the entire cluster, and it's has a limited number of users that we already know that is going to come through, and we know how to increase in workloads on that and nodes on that. And after 5, we know that there is all the students have left and only the teachers are remaining, so we bring that node count and worker loads down to a minimum number, and we keep it down for the entire night, and then the same cycle continues on through the morning as well. So around 4 a.m. we start to increase the load, and till 7 the entire cluster is up, and all the desired nodes are in position. So how are we doing it at the moment? We are using a Jenkins job to reduce the node count and the each and every microservice workloads. So in the morning, if it's like a single service is using 13 or 20 instance of it, at evening we are putting it down to like 1 or 2. So we are dropping down our node count and all that. For auto scaling, we have this for setup just for our CPU load test. So we are collecting metrics from the cluster itself through CloudWatch, and we monitor that. Once the CloudWatch sees that the load has increased above 80, it adds more nodes towards it. And once it's gone down, then the autoscaler moves that node, whatever it has. Other than that, we have a Carpenter for right sizing, and we're using Carpenter to right size the instance itself. So we have two node groups. One is like the system design, where we call it like the system nodes. The others are the actual production load that we require, and the third one are on demand, where we can, like, reduce or even change the instance type that we require. So in terms of the minimum load, this configuration is there. System nodes, whatever the Kubernetes system nodes that we have, the Nginx, the Kong services, which will continuously be running. They won't go down. We keep it on the system node, and whatever else we have, that is the minimum load. It's on the desired node count. Other than that, everything is being right sized, where we see like the CPU usage or everything. Then if it's not being utilized, we change the instance type of it. So this is what Carpenter is doing for us. So we are trying to pull out as much cost away from the cluster itself and save as much as we can. Before that, we had a fixed scenario where we were running a number of nodes, and it was running the entire day, whether we are using it or not. This is what we changed, and so far is like saving a lot of money because of that.
Okay, okay, okay. Let's talk about one scenario. Let's say you need to update the Kubernetes version of your EKS cluster to the any stable release, latest stable release. How can you perform this update with minimal disruption to the services, to other services?
This we have an entire process towards it, but we don't run 24/7, so we have an entire window to upgrade this. But in terms of a system where it is in production 24/7, then there's a step that we take. Like first we upgrade the APIs to a new version, then we target a rolling updates towards the node group itself. So if one of the node is getting upgraded, none of the others will be touched. And once the entire nodes have been upgraded to the complete, then the next one is like being picked up. So we avoid disruption on that part. uh, and we have multiple workloads working on different scenarios. Sorry, different nodes. So if one of the node is getting upgraded, the workloads that goes down, the others are taking the load for that.
Okay, okay,
We
okay.
usually do it in a rolling update manner,
Rolling
but
up.
this entire scenario is being done by Terraform,
Mm-hmm.
and we use Terraform to upgrade this. We have an entire model written for the EKS deployment. It's a modular approach that we have taken because we have many tenants and more can come. So we have written an entire module for it, and in the resource files, we just provide the variables that we want to change. So the versioning is there in that resource, and if we go for an upgrade, we first do it in the non-production environments or the demo, not in the production ones. Once we are satisfied, like the all the add-ons and everything can be upgraded and no disruption of services there, then we move towards the production. So there's a scenario where we completely go step by step on this. So for us, upgrading a EKS cluster is just going to a Terraform file and just adding that number, the desired version that we want.
Okay, okay, okay. Let's talk about a scenario base for the application scaling. Okay, consider your application running on EKS experiences sudden spikes in the traffic. How can you configure application scaling to handle the increased load automatically?
We have HPA. We have HPA that monitors this. So if there is a sudden spike, and if HPA monitors that specifically, it can increase the number of pods running onto that.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's the answer. But do you know how to set it up?
Yeah,
Yeah, can you just walk me through the process?
there's a CRD like resource called HPA where we define the service that we want to monitor, and then
Mm-hmm.
we provide weightage and based on the CPU and all that, and the condition is there in there where if certain CPU number is hit, you can scale it up, or certain memory is there, you can increase it up. So the number of pods we define there, how much you can increase, and once it's the load down, how much whatever it was increased, it will go down.
Okay, okay. Mm, so the current storage that you have in EKS is this persistent storage or something else?
We don't require persistent, but wherever there is a requirement, we usually do the S3 or the EBS itself.
Okay, okay. So like based on that, let's say your application running on EKS needs persistent storage. It's not there, but it needs it. Okay. So how do you integrate this? You talked about EBS, right? So how do you integrate EBS volume with your pods?
There is a driver, like a plugin that gets involved, and through that you can provision the EBS volume and attach to your cluster itself.
Sorry, sorry, I didn't catch that.
I don't remember the plugin that it's required. I think it's something like EFS. There's a plugin driver that adds on to the EKS cluster itself, and that provisions the S3 bucket or the EBS volume. So you create a demand in the EKS, and that driver takes on the EBS and like creates that volume for you, and then attach it to the clusters.
Okay, okay. So this is how you generally do it. You just first of all check out where exactly is your worker node. So you in the terms of availability zone. So if you have an availability zone known, then you can create a EBS volume in the same availability zone. Okay, there you define a persistent volume and persistent volume
That
claim. Yeah.
I think this is some sort of manual process that you're speaking of, but
Yes.
we are more reliant on the plugin itself. We just create a demand in the cluster itself. That let's say in my worker manifest, I define that I require a storage, and then I've defined the storage class as EBS. Then, if the storage class is EBS, the plugin checks that out and creates that volume for us. So it's more like a dynamic provisioning rather than one you are creating and attaching it to cluster yourself.
Okay, so I mean, what plugin are you using? Haven't heard about it.
Uh, I can check it out for you, but I don't know the name exactly.
Okay.
Give me a second if you
No,
really
no
want to
problem.
know.
No problem. I was more on a like was asking for the manual process. So yeah, I mean once that you do it, you can mount the PVC in your pods as a volume in the pod spec,
Yeah.
and
It's
then
more like for us it's a dynamic, but we don't have any scenarios that we want to like do this for. We don't have any storage connected to any of the microservices that we have.
okay, okay, okay. One more question on this. So let's say you want to deploy your application on EKS across multiple AWS regions. Okay, why are you doing it? Because for the disaster recovery and high availability. So how do you achieve
Yeah.
it?
We define node groups and assign it to multiple ACs.
Sorry, what did you do?
So I have like one node group that is assigned to a particular AZ, and then we define another node group, assign it to another AZ. But this scenario that you're talking about, we have done it in the Kubernetes itself.
Okay, I mean using EKS or something else. I mean, how are you doing in Kubernetes? My, my question
We
was
have we have multiple node groups. There, each node group is assigned to a different AZ itself.
okay, okay, okay. My question was more on centric towards EKS. So if you have done on that, then uh, do you have any idea on that?
Through Terraform, we just provided like multi easy enable, and then we define the easy that we want.
Okay, okay, okay,
Let me, if you like, I could like show you there. There is just in the EKS configuration, we have like availability zones underscore 1A, 1B, 1C, and we just assign this to in our code. And once the node groups are picked up, they are assigned to these AZs that we have defined them.
okay, okay,
So each and let's say I wanted like three different node groups assigned one to each AZ.
okay, okay, okay. I mean, your product or project seems to be a bit matured one,
The
right?
Amazon, the driver name is Amazon EBS CSI driver.
What? Amazon? EBS?
EBS CSI driver.
CSI driver. Okay, haven't heard
So
about it.
this,
Have noted
yeah,
it down.
this is what we use to like provision dynamic. So you just have to define the storage in your manifest, and the storage class needs to be EBS or S3 in order to like dynamically provision this. So we don't have to go manually and create this. It will create it for you and attach it to that particular instance.
Okay, so whatever project that you have been talking about, it seems a bit mature one, right? A lot of stuff has been already automated and this driver thing, because I was looking for the manual steps, but you already have something over there. So yeah, this is it. So like, who has done all this setup? Like you folks or your team or someone else
Yeah, we,
before?
we have done it. This
Okay.
is completely our responsibility as a platform engineers, you might say, that
Hmm.
we take care of these scenarios ourselves. So this is like a hit and run for us as well. It's a year long for me, but there are people that have been like working on this. So there were a lot of practices that were not being followed on. So once I got inducted into lead load, I started changing these processes, where we are like redefining the Terraform modules to be as modularized as possible, and we don't want any resources to be in the resource code. The only the variables should be there, and whatever we want to change, we can do that. These sort of scenarios we have like done this, and the rest are like experience. Whenever the requirement has been there, we like went through and looked for solutions. We took a lot of help from the Amazon as well, because LF education is kind of big in terms of UE, and Amazon do promote us in terms of their ideal scenarios that we have like worked with. So most of these solutions are like handwritten with Amazon guys itself.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm done. Do you have any questions for me?